Patriot City united by peaceful protests, demanding justice. Yet within moments, the atmosphere shifts from unity to chaos. Signs advocating change become shields. This is what happens around these events in America, showing how difficult it is to balance the right to protest with the need to keep the peace. Today, I argue that the First Amendment's protections of peaceful assembly and protest are vital to democracy. Yet, recent events challenge the balance between the rights and public safety. First, we'll explore the challenges posed by riots and protests to public order. Next, we'll examine the root causes behind the events. Finally, we'll discuss potential solutions to strike a balance between the First Amendment rights and public safety. Protests are meant to be protected under the First Amendment. But time and time again, these protests have disintegrated into fights, property damage, and injuries. This happens when people feel they're not being heard. And Martin Luther King is quoted saying, riots are the voice of the unheard. So when people feel like they're not being heard or is being glossed over, they turn to riots, and that's when things escalate into dangerous situations. The reasons why these protests happen in the first place is because of systemic racist practices. There's been a lot of murders by the police on people of color with little to zero accountability on the police and lack of taking responsibility for anything that goes on. This angers a lot of people, which in turn makes the situation more intense, which turns into violence. After the death of George Floyd, there was many instances like this where there were injuries and property damage and fights between police and protesters and counter protesters, and also people just taking advantage of the chaos. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is quoted in saying, "The First Amendment guarantees the right of the people to peacefully assemble. What we saw last night in Minneapolis wasn't peaceful." This was him talking about the protests after the George Floyd murder. To find a balance between peaceful protests and the need for public safety, there has to be some kind of middle ground. Police reform, better police training, unbiased training, and investing in the community that you serve. Getting to know the community that you're in, getting to know the people, getting to know how they go about things. I feel would be very beneficial to police to know the people that they are sworn to serve and protect, because then they're not just numbers and faces. You actually have a connection with these people. According to Howard Zinn, protest beyond the law is not a departure from democracy. It is absolutely essential. There needs to be a way for people to protest without it erupting into chaos. Protesting is one of the few ways that we can demonstrate our displeasure, our frustration, and make positive change. But the more that these turn into riots and people start getting hurt, property starts getting damaged, this gives all the anti-protest community, I'll say, more ammo to why protests are bad. Martin Luther King has said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So there needs to be some kind of middle ground between activists, law enforcement, lawmakers, representatives to come together so that people can protest and voice their displeasure without the concern of, will this break out into a riot? Will I get hurt if I go here? What's going to happen to me if I go here? Will I get arrested? Will I get beat by cops? That is very counterproductive to the American way, I'll say. So in conclusion, protests turn into riots because people feel they're not being heard. There needs to be some kind of police reform as to how to better go about monitoring and how to have these protests while also maintaining public order and safety. And this is a call to action for my lawmakers, my activists, and my law enforcement to come together to find a better way to address these issues. Thank you.